The gray cat staggered onto the rain-slicked porch, her once glossy fur matted with mud and blood. But it was the grotesque lump bulging from her side that froze Sarah's breath in her throat. Just 1 year ago, this same cat had appeared like a ghost during Sarah's darkest hours, curling silently on her dying mother's hospice bed, purring as the old woman took her final breaths. Back then, the cat vanished after the funeral, leaving only paw prints on Sarah's grieving heart. Now here she was, emaciated, trembling, and carrying a tumor the size of a peach, as if she'd crossed mountains to return. Sarah's hands shook as she reached out, whispering, "You came back, but what happened to you?" The cat's gold-green eyes locked onto hers, deep and knowing, like they held secrets only the departed understood. Sarah's tiny apartment still smelled of her mother's lavender perfume, the grief so thick it choked her. But seeing the cat's labored breathing, each gasp a ragged shudder, she snapped into action. Rain lashed the windows as she bundled the frail creature into a towel, feeling the tumor's alarming heat against her palms. "Hold on, sweet girl," she pleaded, fumbling for her car keys. "We're getting help." The cat's weak purr vibrated against Sarah's chest, a fragile rumble that felt like both gratitude and goodbye. The emergency vet's fluorescent lights hummed like wasps as Dr. Evans palpated the tumor, her face grim. "This isn't just large, Sarah. It's aggressive, and she's severely anemic." She pointed to X-rays glowing on the screen, a spiderweb of shadows spreading from the mass. "If it's attached to her organ, surgery could kill her. If we don't operate—" She didn't finish. Sarah's savings were already decimated by her mother's medical bills. The estimate flashed on a tablet. $5,000. Impossible. As if sensing her despair, the cat nudged Sarah's hand with her. Cold nose, those ancient eyes never wavering. "Why did you return to me now?" Sarah wondered. "To break my heart all over again?" That night, Sarah lay on the floor beside the cat's makeshift bed, stroking her bony head. The apartment felt haunted, not by fear but by memories. Her mother's last words echoed. "Love finds you when you're ready, Sarah, even on 4 paws." Suddenly, the cat's body seized, a guttural cry tearing through the dark. Blood bloomed across the towel. The tumor had ruptured. Sarah pressed her scarf against the wound, hands slick and shaking. "Don't you dare leave me," she sobbed, dialing the vet with bloody fingers. "It's midnight," she gasped into the phone, naming the cat for the first time. "She's bleeding out." At 3 a.m., the veterinary ICU was a sterile purgatory. Midnight lay tethered to IVs, her heartbeat a jagged line on the monitor. Dr. Evans spoke softly. "We've stabilized her, but the rupture caused internal damage. She needs surgery now, or she won't survive dawn." Sarah stared at the estimate. Now $7,000 with overnight care. Her credit card maxed out at $500. As tears blurred the numbers, Midnight's paw twitched, as if reaching for her. Sarah remembered her mother's hands, similarly frail, reaching in that hospice bed. Was this why Midnight returned? To force her to choose between hope and surrender? To teach her how to fight? Desperate, Sarah posted Midnight's story online, photos of the tumor, the bloodied towel, the cat's soulful eyes. "She came back to me so I wouldn't grieve alone," she wrote. "Now I might lose her too." Donations trickled in. $10, $20. Not enough. With sunrise an hour away, Sarah crumpled, beside Midnight's cage. The cat's breath hitched, a wet, shallow sound. "Please," Sarah whispered, pressing her forehead to the plastic. "Show me why you're here." Midnight's eyelids fluttered open. For a heartbeat, her gaze wasn't that of a dying animal, but something wiser, older, as if channeling. A voice Sarah ached to hear. It seemed to say, "This isn't the end." Then the monitor screamed, a relentless, metallic shriek. Midnight's body arched off the table, wires snapping away. Dr. Evans and nurses surged into the room, shouting about cardiac arrest. Sarah was shoved into the hallway, her last glimpse a nurse clamping oxygen over Midnight's muzzle, and the cat's eyes rolling back into her head. The door slammed. Through the glass, Sarah saw Dr. Evans grab the defibrillator paddles, her mouth moving in urgent commands, but the monitor flatlined, a single, endless tone. Sarah slid down the wall, her mother's pendant clutched so tight it drew blood. Midnight hadn't just come back to die, had she? The flatline's piercing shriek drilled into Sarah's skull, freezing her blood. Through the ICU window, she saw Dr. Evans slam the defibrillator paddles onto Midnight's tiny, motionless chest. Clear! The cat's body jolted violently, a puppet with severed strings. The monitor showed no change, just that agonizing, straight green line. Again! Evans barked. Another jolt. Sarah's nails dug into her palms, drawing blood. Not like Mom. Please, not like Mom. She pressed her mother's pendant against her lips, tasting salt and metal. On the third shock, a blip flickered on the screen. Then another. A weak, thready rhythm stuttered back to life. Evans sagged against the table, wiping sweat from her brow. She's back, but barely. We operate now or lose her. Sarah didn't hesitate. Do it, her voice was raw gravel. I'll find the money. As nurses wheeled Midnight away, the cat's half-lidded eyes found Sarah's one last time, a glimmer of gold in a sea of pain. That look wasn't fear. It was trust. A silent plea. Stay with me. Sarah collapsed into a plastic chair, the pendant's sharp edge biting her skin. She pulled out her phone, fingers trembling. The fundraising page had exploded overnight. Strangers shared her post, $2,300, $4,100, and $5,800. Messages scrolled like a waterfall for Midnight's fight. Your mom sent her back for a reason. Sending love from London. Tears blurred the screen. She wasn't alone. The waiting room clock ticked like a bomb. 4 hours. Sarah stared at the surgery doors, imagining the horror within. Midnight's fragile body split open, that monstrous tumor devouring her from inside. Every creak of a hinge, every distant phone ring stopped her heart. What if it's attached to her spine, her lungs? The vet's warnings echoed. She paced, haunted by Midnight's blood on her scarf, the ghost of her mother's frail hand in hers. Love finds you when you're ready. Was she ready to lose again? Suddenly the doors swung open. Dr. Evans emerged, mask dangling, exhaustion etching deep lines around her eyes. Sarah froze, bracing for the blow. Sarah, it's out! Evans's voice cracked. The tumor was massive, wrapped around her, spleen like a fist. We had to remove the spleen too. But, she paused, shaking her head in disbelief. It wasn't malignant, just a giant angry benign mass. It bled like hell, but she's cancer-free. Relief buckled Sarah's knees. She grabbed a chair. Is she alive? Evans confirmed. Critical, but alive. Come see. Midnight lay in a tangle of wires and tubes, a shrunken shadow under harsh lights. An oxygen mask fogged with each shallow breath. Her shaved side was a landscape of brutal stitches. Sarah approached slowly, afraid to shatter this fragile miracle. Hey, warrior, she whispered, her voice thick. Tentatively, she touched a patch of unshaved fur near Midnight's ear. The cat's tail twitched, a feeble flicker. Then, slowly, painfully, Midnight turned her head. Her gold-green eyes opened, foggy with drugs and pain, but they locked onto Sarah's face. Recognition sparked. A low, raspy sound vibrated in her throat. Not a purr, but a struggle toward one. Sarah's tears fell hot onto the cage floor. She slid her fingers through the bars, resting them near Midnight's paw. A moment later, ice-cold pads pressed weakly against her skin. "I'm here. You're here." The bond, forged in hospice rooms and blood-soaked towels, solidified. Recovery was a battlefield. Nights blurred into days in Sarah's lavender-scented apartment. Midnight needed round-the-clock care, syringe-feeding broth, changing bandages, administering painkillers. Sarah slept on the floor beside her nest of blankets. Fever spiked. Midnight refused to eat. "Her body's been through trauma," Dr. Evans warned over the phone. "Her spirit needs to fight too." Desperate, Sarah tried everything: tuna juice, chicken baby food, even singing her mother's lullabies. Midnight turned away, listless. One rainy afternoon, Sarah broke. Grief for her mother, fear for Midnight, the crushing weight of it all, surged. She sank beside the cat's bed, sobbing silently, her mother's pendant cold against her skin. "I can't lose you too." As her tears fell onto the blanket, something nudged her hand. Midnight, weak as a newborn, had dragged herself closer. With immense effort, she lifted her head and licked Sarah's tear-streaked wrist. Once, twice, a rough, tender caress. Then, slowly, deliberately, she lowered her head onto Sarah's trembling hand. The message was clear. We grieve together. We heal together. Sarah cried harder, cradling the cat's frail body. That night, Midnight ate 3 teaspoons of broth. Weeks turned. The stitches came out. Fur began to regrow over the jagged scar. Strength returned, slow but sure. Midnight started exploring, hopping onto the sun-warmed windowsill, watching sparrows with predatory focus. One crisp autumn morning, Sarah awoke to a gentle weight on her chest. Midnight lay there, purring, a deep, resonant rumble Sarah had never heard before. It vibrated through her bones, a soothing balm. The cat gazed at her, those ancient eyes soft now, filled with a profound, unspoken understanding. Sarah stroked the velvety fur, her fingers tracing the ridge of the scar, a permanent reminder of their shared battle. "You came back," she murmured. "You fought." "We both did." Midnight did something then that stole Sarah's breath. She lifted a paw ever so gently and placed it on Sarah's cheek, exactly where Sarah's dying mother had touched her for the last time. A perfect, deliberate mirror. A chill, warm and electric, ran down Sarah's spine. It wasn't just a cat, it was her cat, her mother's final, whispered gift, a bridge between love lost and love found. The mystical mission was complete. Adoption wasn't a question. It was a quiet certainty, written in shared survival and scar tissue. Sarah bought a collar, deep blue velvet, like the hospice blanket her mother loved. The tag read, "Midnight, beloved, brave." The first time she clipped it on, Midnight arched her neck proudly, as if wearing a medal. Months later, on the anniversary of her mother's passing, Sarah sat on the porch at dusk, Midnight curled tightly in her lap, purring against the old pendant. The tumor's shadow was gone, replaced by solid warmth and rumbling contentment. Sarah watched the first stars appear, tears falling silently. Not tears of grief, but of awe. Midnight lifted her head, nudging Sarah's chin, her eyes reflecting the emerging constellations. "She taught me," Sarah whispered into the twilight, her voice thick with revelation, "that grief isn't an empty space. It's a shape love takes when it needs to move mountains. She moved mine. She came back broken and made me whole." Midnight's purr deepened, vibrating against Sarah's heart, a lullaby for the living, a benediction for the departed. They sat, there, human and cat, survivor and savior, two souls stitched back together by loss and an unbreakable, inexplicable love. Finally, irrevocably, home. "Sometimes," Sarah murmurs, her hand resting on Midnight's scarred side, feeling the steady heartbeat beneath. The most broken messengers carry the deepest healing. She was my mother's goodbye, and my hello to learning how to live again.